Hey, this is Susan Blanton with the Create Happy Now podcast, and I have back on the show Colette Liose. Colette, if you recall, she is an EFT specialist or tapping specialist, otherwise known as Emotional Freedom Technique. Colette discovered EFT or tapping in 2007, and she knew she found her calling. Colette, or TapNGrl as you'll know her, immersed herself in the EFT model first developed by Gary Craig over 30 years ago. She gained understanding and transformation from her own negative experiences and limiting beliefs, many formed through childhood, physical, and emotional abuse. She's so excited about her fantastic personal results that she shares her passion now for healing and restoring you to your wholeness, and it's a lot of fun. Colette is a Hoosier native, born in Fort Wayne, Indiana, and she's lived in this wonderful state her entire life. She's armed with a bachelor's degree in political science with a minor in sociology from Indiana University, and she continues to hone her skills through education of the tapping technique through her work with clients. She is a tapping practitioner, teacher, and law of attraction coach. Hey, Colette, I'm so glad to have you back. Oh my gosh.
Thank you so much. It's such a pleasure to be here with you.
And, when you and I talked off screen last time, and you did a session with me and you helped me with my knee, you got it to silence it a little bit. So that was really awesome. So it works.
And that was just one session. I mean,
we did just one session. Yes. Mm-hmm. Yes, it was amazing. She would make me just get up and run down the stairs and say, "How did it go? How did it go?" Like,
what do you hear? What do you hear? Yeah.
Right. So I am so glad to have you back. And you don't live too far from my hometown of Fortville. You live in Fishers, right?
Yeah, I'm just around the corner, really.
Yeah, I'll have to come visit you when I go back home.
Lived in Indianapolis most of my life, but we moved out here to Fishers in 2011, and we do love it out here.
Oh, it's beautiful. I love the Geist area, and my sister teaches at the Hamilton Southeastern High School there.
Oh, it's across the street from me. I forgot. Yeah.
Yes. It's grown so much since I was in high school. So anyway, I thank you so much for joining us again. And I really wanted to get the listeners just a full exposure to Colette and all your energy and just to teach us a little bit more about this EFT and how special you are with it. I mean, you have some intuitive gifts, my lady. And also, just tell like a little bit of your story, maybe some other people that you've seen a huge improvement after having started tapping.
Okay, well, tapping, the formal name for tapping is Emotional Freedom Technique. I found tapping, it found me, however you want to put it. It's always answered prayer, right? In 2007, I was at a pretty low point again. Just the anxiety and the fear and those things that I didn't really understand. Why am I feeling? I mean, my life was great at that time, great husband, great income, lived in a beautiful area, had a wonderful home, and I'm still having anxiety, frustration, fears. And I remember that it actually happened over 3 different weekends. I was starting to watch like mind movies and things like that on YouTube. And each week I kept getting led to YouTube videos of EFT. And I thought, the first time I thought, well, what is this? So I played it and I went, oh, we're not doing that. That's just weird looking. And I always am doing the weird stuff. And so I got away from there. A week later, I come back, go through the same thing. There's another video, watch it again. By the 3rd week, I went, okay, there's no mistakes. I can't miss what's meant for me. I mean, I knew enough about law of attraction and thoughts become things and those kinds of things that I went, maybe I ought to look at this. So I Googled before I knew what Googling was and how I even did it. And I was actually led to Gary Craig's website, who is the developer of tapping. He actually developed it from a technique known as thought field therapy from Roger Callahan, who was an American psychologist. And Gary Craig said, I'm going to pay you a boatload of money. I'm going to study under you. And from that, he came up with Emotional Freedom Technique. Wow. And I started using it pretty much right away. And it took me about 3 weeks. I would sit down and watch a little 8-minute video every morning on Anchor, and I'd just sit there and I'd do the tapping, and I'd get up and be like, okay. Well, 3 weeks, like to the day, I just start boohoo sobbing, and I thought, what is this? And I had been that blocked emotionally from my own anger and the other emotions. And I say most of us are. We learned to like almost not feel so that we don't have to feel bad. And so it was from there that I really just took off and started practicing it and using it. And I always said I couldn't believe I didn't wear a path in the carpet. I had a circular floor plan, and there were some days I would tap for a couple hours, and I really didn't even know what I was doing. And at that time, Gary Craig allowed you to download the manual for free. And that was, to me, I was like, is this guy really for real? And started noticing changes. And then I started, just more ease, a little more relaxed, taking the edge off the anxiety, the frustration. I was also, I'll just say this, I was also perimenopausal. And so, if y'all didn't see that, we just rolled our eyes and went into that thing. And so it helped me a lot with that. And it was then I started working with, friends and folks like that for really minimal fee, and just more and more. And I say about the tapping, and when you said that about the highly intuitive, I still say this, that, we do come in, intuition is our first sense. It's not our sixth. Yeah. And that life muddies and think of yourself as a brilliant gem, that life muddies and murkies up your shine. You're not giving and receiving light like you normally would had you not been taught what you'd been taught. Right. And that tapping actually is like polishing off that beautiful diamond. Now you give and receive light. If anybody would have ever told me that I would have people tell me all the time, I love your energy, that I'd go, what? Now I hear it all the time, and it's actually such a wonderful compliment and such a great testament to tapping, that when you really start dumping that garbage, and for whatever reason, I will say this right here up front. I'm not a doctor. I don't have training in psychology, but for some reason, through digging enough of my own stuff and figuring out sabotage and the ways we want this, but we create this, that it's so highly intuitive for me now. And for some reason, I understand a lot of the psychological concepts of why we create the stuff we do. I was born into a family with 9 children, and it created quite an environment of contrast. And my father, I think you and I had talked about this before, and I think it happened with a lot of folks that were raised in the 50s, 60s, that, and maybe even still now, that our house was almost run like a little army barracks. We even called my dad, yes, sir. And and if you were in trouble, you knew it was yes, sir. So there were, in that time, people raised children differently. Yeah. And, I don't say we were spanked, we were beat. And that may have only happened a few times, but it makes a big enough of an impact that when I'm working with someone, we're getting into those stories and the fears and how you got your stuff, because what tapping really does is helps me release. It doesn't take away the story. What it does is it helps me release the emotional attachment to the story. And that's why it's so fantastic for PTSD, because when you're working with a veteran, and there's even with tapping a whole thing called the Veterans Project, and this was approved by the VA as a technique to be used for PTSD. And that way people don't have to take meds and those things if you're going through the protocol and being helped by a practitioner who knows what they're doing, that we're actually, you get to where you can tell about the things you've been through, almost like you're describing a trip to the grocery store.
Can you explain how the meridians work and how that
all came about?
How that actually, the mechanics of it, because explain a little bit if someone's like, I don't know what you're talking about. This
okay
method.
So tapping goes by the formal name of emotional freedom technique. And again, it's because we're releasing the emotional connection. So what some have, we used to always describe it as acupuncture without the needles.
Okay.
Because we are tapping meridian endpoints on the face and the body, where what happens is this. Let me back up and explain.
And that's why it's called tapping.
That's why it's called tapping. And you're tapping with just your two fingers, like the index and the middle finger, and you're just tapping lightly, like 7 or 8 times on each spot while you are saying what's called a reminder phrase. So if I say
affirmations maybe too?
Well, I
Or
used it
no?
every bit for the positive as much as the negative, but it was really developed for the negative, and it was really developed for the negative in a way that doesn't re-traumatize you.
Okay.
Because what happens is when we have a crappy thought, when we have a scary thought, it fires up a part of the brain called the amygdala. The amygdala then starts to manufacture chemical, we start to manufacture chemicals, cortisol, insulin, and adrenaline. So like if you're really scared and your heart beats racing or your palms are sweaty, we actually address those physical aspects. And what happens is, while we are saying the reminder phrase, this fear about my project tomorrow or whatever it is, because tapping can be used. And when I say for absolutely everything, I mean absolutely everything. If you're not drinking enough water in a day, you can tap, and there's a whole thing that goes on with the brain and the body. And before you know it, you'll see yourself drinking more water. There is not anything it cannot be used for. And so when we are doing the tapping, these different meridian endpoints that we're tapping, which the first one's called the eyebrow. It's right where the top of the bridge of the nose and the eyebrow meet. The second one's called side of eye. It's right there in the temple. Under eye is where the bone is, underneath your eye, then under nose, and then the chin, it's the denty part. The collarbone is actually that little U-shaped thing there, and you're just tapping, going about an inch down and an inch over. So some
like the
people
top of your sternum?
I'm not that physiologically, listen, I will tell you, I don't even know what all organs the different spots go to, because I'm just going to be honest with you. I don't really care. It just works. It just works. Now, I do know under the eye is the stomach. So, and I know under the arm is the spleen. So if someone is obsessive, because the spleen a lot of times has to do with being obsessive, or if you're having anxiety, like if I'm in a car with a little kid and we're doing a road trip, and this actually happened, or we were in the car so long that day, she was starting to get car sick. So just had her start tapping under her eye in the back seat, and actually lean up between the 2 front seats. This is before everybody had to be buckled in and all those things. So it really just helped calm the stomach. So tapping actually comes under a heading known as energy psychology. And like I said, we used to explain it as acupuncture without the needles. And now the way I explain it, I say that it's modern technology for releasing stress and anxiety. And the reason I say that, it was Greg Braden who's a scientist, I think a geologist.
Braden.
Okay.
Yes,
and you know that him and Bruce
math and all that.
Yeah. And that they're called the three amigos. Dispenza, Lipton, and Braden. And they're all scientists that are in the spiritual world.
Yes.
And part of that is, all of that is because I say all the time now, it doesn't matter if it's quantum physics, law of attraction, spirituality, it's all one and the same now. It's the greatest time ever to be alive, because they're
proving
the other.
They're proving it that it's not such woo-woo, really.
Yes. So Greg Braden said, when we don't know how something happens, it's a miracle. When we do know how it happens, it's technology. Well, when tapping first came out, we didn't really know how it worked. Just knew it was working. And now there's been enough science and enough studies being done, and a lot of that's been spearheaded by David Feinstein. And I think I said his name right, Feinstein, and Dawson Church. Dawson Church is the gentleman who wrote the book, The Genie in Your Jeans.
Oh, okay.
And so David Feinstein is actually the husband of Donna Eden. And so while she's woo-woo energy girl, he's science-based psychology guy, and I think it's John Hopkins. And so he's been doing a lot of the research too, and things that go with it. And like an hour of tapping versus an hour of talk therapy, cortisol
Wow.
levels can come down 37%.
Wow.
37%. And your immunoglobulins can go up 113% over a week of tapping, only like 15 minutes a day.
Which, trying to increase our immune system right now is huge in
Yes, and
this
that's why
pandemic.
yes, and that's why I was telling you that almost 180 days ago, I believe it was March 19th, I made the decision that I was going to start going live on Facebook. Believe me, I had no idea it would go on this long, but I think it's in a couple days. I'm at 180 days
Wow.
of live in a row, and basically I'm on there. I'm teaching law of attraction. I'm helping people understand how we create reality, how they're getting what they're getting, and then we're going in and doing the tapping, because I'm just teaching all kinds of concepts. And so much of it just comes through me. I'm in receiving mode a lot. I swear, I think that has so much to do with tapping, because I didn't used to be that intuitive. I mean, we all are, but I wasn't connected to it. And when people would say, oh, close your eyes and do this and all that, well, you can see me. I can't sit still in a chair, let alone you want me to sit there and like figure out how I'm intuitive. So the tapping more and more and more, to where now my sessions are just so crazy good. I was explaining it the other day. It's changing and getting more exciting, because what happens is we'll sit there and work together, and in my brain, dots are being connected. So that after we've talked and spent some time, it's like it all just goes click into place for me, and I see the pattern. And I go, wow, did you know, da, 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 and then we start going through. So when I'm doing a session, we're not just tapping out the memory and the emotion. I'm also helping you connect the dots of why you created it that way, and what it means to do.
Yeah. You made me cry when we had our private session.
I'm not just mean, nasty cuss, but if I get you crying, I'm a pretty happy girl.
Well, and it all made sense. I mean, you pulled it together, and then I had my aha moment. I think it really helps open what they say, the pineal gland, which is supposed to be our intuition roadway, right?
Oh my gosh, you just reminded me. I totally forgot. I did actually tap to open my pineal. Oh wow, I forgot that. And that, I just made it up. Even though my pineal's occluded, I love and accept myself, and more and more. And I didn't realize that till you just said that. That's so funny. Okay, see, I'm so smart, but some things I just like. Oh.
That's the thing, is that when you get to a certain point, it's not learning. It just comes through. It's a knowing.
Yes,
it's a knowing, and you just, like, people ask you to answer a question, you're just pulling it out of your knowing. It's not from your memory banks.
Because
sometimes you can't explain it anymore, because you're like, I don't know, I just know.
Well, 2012 was my big waking. I mean, there'd been stuff before, and of course there's been big ones since. And that was really when I started to understand. Well, I'll just tell you, I had nightly visits for weeks and weeks and weeks of understanding so much about how we create and all of those things, to where I stopped listening to other things, because I wanted to know it was my remembering. Because I do say we all know everything I know. And that's when I really started understanding the law of attraction and tapping connection. That I just love and adore now, to help people understand why am I getting that. And it really does not matter. I mean, one thing just popped up in my head was, there was a day I knew I needed to go run errands, and I was like, I'm not in the mood. Why am I not in the mood? I just started tapping, even though I can't get my butt out the door. And before I knew it, I had a purse on my arm and I was headed out the door. So there really is not anything that you can't use it for. So, I mean, if you were a writer and you had writer's block, I'd say, give me a holler. Let's start getting you back in your groove and all of those things. I absolutely adore it. I say all the time, tapping is amazing. And it's not left brain. Like, I might have somebody contact me, and we're working together about grief. And then they tell me that they got a deposit in their checking account, and say, I go, wow, tapping's amazing. And they go, tapping? That was from the tapping? And I go, absolutely. When you release that block between you and your knowing,
Mm-hmm.
then all kinds of things open up. And it's not left brain. It's not 2 + 2 is 4. It's, it's this whole thing that goes on. And when you understand that source knows, source, God, infinite wisdom, inner being, whatever it is that you like to call God, it knows where everything we want is. When you understand law of attraction, it's that every bit of the contrast, the clarity is known, all that stuff's just waiting there for me, waiting for me to feel good, line myself up with it. And before you know it, you have these things showing up. I mean, this has been a really amazing year for me, even though it's been kind of crazy. But I started talking last year about the great clarity I knew was going to come through this year. I just did not know it was going to look like a pandemic. I mean,
isn't that funny? Like that
amazing.
would be the last place you would think that's where you would get that from.
Yeah, such explosive growth in
That's
people.
right.
And I really knew when I decided to go live, I said, look, there's going to be a lot of people trapped at home. There's going to be a lot of people trapped with those people that they're used to having them gone and getting a break and all of those things. And I thought it's a really good time to bring this in for several reasons. One, it's the greatest time historically for people to learn the tapping and learn what an amazing tool it is.
Yes.
It's a great time for people to find out what their blocks are, what's keeping me from what I want. Maybe people lost jobs. I mean, I tap with people on all kinds of issues. I know a lot of tapping practitioners will say, I'm a grief specialist or I'm an abundance specialist. There's not anything. Now, I won't go into mental health issues because that's out of my league. That's out of my, wheelhouse. But I will grief, weight loss, addictions. I actually use smoking to stop smoking cigarettes. I smoked for 38 years and it was such an amazing technique.
Wow.
Doing that. And I'm my own testimonial because one day I just stopped. And it's not that wanting one every day. When you take care of the emotional drivers behind your addiction, and addiction can even be an emotional addiction. Maybe I'm addicted to sadness or anger. Maybe I'm a drama queen. Maybe, whatever it is, those are all tappable issues. And when you take care of the emotional drivers that drive that addiction, all of a sudden one day it's just gone and it defies linear logic.
That's crazy.
It is crazy good.
It's crazy good. It's crazy good. And I think it also has a huge proponent for self-love.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Because the more that I'm understanding this thing called me, like I say all the time, look, I don't spend a lot of time figuring out millions of years ago where I came from and who I am and what tribe and all this. And I'm just being honest and telling you because I just want to keep this thing called me happy today.
Right.
And
today.
So,
be happy today.
I'm happy today. And so I'd rather spend my time teaching law of attraction, helping people with one-on-one sessions, which I just adore when I'm tapping in group. I love teaching tapping in group. I had a friend, I'd gone and I taught tapping at a yoga studio. And there was a friend of ours, Scott had known my husband since childhood. And they were actually going to go to Machu Picchu. And which, is a big walking trip. Yes. And the first night in the hotel, he went to go into the bathroom and it was a step up, hit the ball of his foot. I mean, he said, sent shockwaves through his body and said the only thing, and thinking, oh no, I got 2 weeks of walking ahead of me. And he said the only thing he could remember, I have more people tell me they hear me in their head. And I go, oh, I hope that's a good thing. So he said the only thing he could remember was me saying, in the moment you get hurt, start tapping. I tell people this all, in the moment you get hurt, start tapping. He said, I went over, laid on the bed, had my back on the bed, and I just started tapping. Oh, I can't believe I did this. I've got this 2-week trip, on and on and on. He said, I did it for at least 20 minutes. And he said, the next morning, it was like it never happened.
Really?
And that, oh yeah, I'm not lying to you when I tell you, in the moment you get hurt or you see someone else get hurt, start tapping immediately. Because think about it. If what tapping does is stops that chemical dump, as I say it, from the brain into the body,
Mm-hmm.
I just got hurt. Now I'm tapping, and what I'm doing is I'm telling the brain it's not a lion, tiger, or bear. I'm really safe right now. And even though you could be cussing and saying, oh, I'm an idiot, can't believe I did that, however you want to do it, you stop that chemical dump.
Okay.
And I have other stories of times I did that, but I don't want to gross anybody out. So
So one thing I think, if you get the points kind of down, that's pretty easy. What is the best things to say? Like, how do you, if you're starting to do this for yourself, what are the things you say?
okay,
Because I
what we're
think that's probably as much of a key as to the points that you're tapping. Or if you have nothing to say, you don't know what to say, can you just tap and be
well, I do tell people all the time, because most people get stuck on the words. They get hung up on the words. And people will ask me, how long did it take you to get comfortable with the words? And I say, well, I think I came out of the womb talking, so it didn't take me any time at all. And so, I mean, it really didn't. My husband says you were born to do this. So the words were not a hiccup for me. So I tell people all the time, if you're not sure about the words or the emotion, or what do I say, just feel what you're feeling, because that's all the words are for, is to help you zero in. In other words, if, like yesterday, I opened the front door and something fell and hit me.
Oh,
okay. It was the fastest moving spider I'd ever seen in my whole life. Okay.
Oh,
Yeah. I saw you. And I'm like, okay, now just to show you, I really do know what I'm doing. At first I was watching this thing move and going, oh. And then I took my fingers and started tapping points, because it's like, even in the going, and tapping, I'm sending a signal to the brain. Okay. So
not
I
to panic.
started to calm down, and that thing, I'm telling you what, I never saw a spider move that fast in my life. So if you're stymied and stuck about the words, okay, just feel the pain. If you slammed your finger in the door, just put the person's face in front of you if they said something and hurt your feelings, okay?
Okay.
That's really what the focus is. But the way that Gary Craig created it is, we're taking an incident or a fear or whatever it is called your target, and an emotion. Remember, it's called emotional freedom technique.
Yeah.
So you can say just as simply, even though I have this fear of spiders.
Okay.
And what we're doing is we're actually tapping what we call side of hand or karate chop. And it's down from the little finger, that fatty part on the side of your hand.
Yeah.
And you're tapping with the other hand. And I like to use the fingers, the fingertips, because there are meridian endpoints in the fingers too. So what he designed it to do is, even though I have this stress in my shoulders, in my stomach, this anxiety in my stomach. So you're taking, even though I have this, whatever it is, and then you're naming where it is. Okay. So even though I have this fear of spiders, even though, I'm terrified by snakes, even though I am tired and don't want to clean the house today, even though it doesn't matter what it is, even though I hate Brussels sprouts, they make me, I can't stand the smell.
I can't stand them either. I am right there with you. Oh, I cannot
God,
stand
no,
Brussels sprouts.
I love them. I must have said
You love
that.
them now?
No, I do. I must
You
have
said it for me.
It's
You just said, even though I can't stand the smell of, I'm like, I don't.
That is so funny, because a lot of times I will say things come out of my mouth. I don't, and sometimes even when I'm doing my live, I say, I don't know who this is for, but man, I just felt that in my back. Well, one day I said, let's just use something really easy, even though I have this pain in my neck. And as soon as I said it, it's like my whole neck locked up.
Yeah.
Like 12 people on the live said they had neck pain that day. And I'm like, okay, because my neck like practically locked up. Okay, and right now as we're saying it, I am totally covering in goosebumps. It's always my big yes. I call them thrill bumps. So it's really simple. Even though I'm angry at my husband, even though I'm angry at my child, even though e-learning is driving, is
Yes.
really making me anxious. Okay. And you're tapping on the side of the hand while you're saying that setup phrase 3 times.
Mm-hmm.
Then all we're doing when we go from spot to spot is what's called a reminder phrase. So it would be, so if we said, even though I'm stressed out about e-learning, okay, maybe you're the parent, okay, you're going to do that on the side of the hand, and then when you go spot to spot, you're just going to say this e-learning stress. Then you're going to go to the side of the eye, this e-learning stress. So you can see where those words are only for you to focus in on the feeling and what it is.
Well, let's do an example. Let's do one that's kind of, I think everybody wants this one. Even though we know how to eat healthfully, we may know the choices to make, we may not be as vigilant with making those good choices. We're not drinking enough water. We're not eating enough vegetables. We're eating too many things that are not good for us. So
now I just want
to
tell you,
United States
I want to
probably benefit from
and you picked better. Because that can be multifaceted. You know, the water's going to be different than the food. The food's going to be different than, you know, because for every person that will be different. Let's see, I'm trying to think how we could say that. We could say, even though I am frustrated, disappointed by my choices,
or sabotaging my food choices.
Could.
Even though you know how to eat right.
Yeah.
Like for me, like, even though I know how to eat right, and I kick myself because I'm like, why did I eat that just now?
Okay. Well, then I'm going to say, even though I'm so frustrated with my choices. Okay. And everybody will know what that is. Now, what I say is, okay. And if there's another choice that you're making that's not food, you can focus in on that. There's an amazing thing with tapping called borrowing benefits. In other words, if your choice was about, of the 3 job offers I could have taken, I took the worst one. Okay. Or, you know, whatever it is. Okay. We all make all kinds of choices. You're wanting to focus in on that. Okay.
Okay.
But even when we're dealing with diet and exercise and all of those things, it's such a broad topic.
Or knowing the right thing, making those right things, having that clarity to know, should I eat now? Should I, like, even though I'm not hungry, should I eat 3 meals a day, or should I wait? I mean, a lot of times we just don't even know what to do. There's so many different diets and things. You know, there's intermittent fasting, there's keto, there's eating this way, and you're like, I don't know how to eat anymore. I just
And I will tell you this.
Eat, you know, whatever's in front of me.
Yes, and I will tell you this, and I believe it's even on my website. The most important thing that goes in your body is the thought. So as a law of attraction practitioner, teacher, mentor, coach, fairy godmother, I will say to you that if you can get wrapped around and lined up with cake, you can have cake expressing the body as, you know, nutritional. Okay. Now, most of us are going to have a real hard time with that because this is multi-generational. Did you know in the Renaissance, white bread was cake?
Really?
What we eat as white bread was cake.
Wow. Okay.
I can't even remember where or how I got that, but I was like, well, yeah, because there's a lot of sugar in white bread and all of that stuff, right?
Right.
We just decided it needed more sugar. Right. Okay, so when I say, even though I'm frustrated with my choices, it doesn't matter if you made a choice of gym, it doesn't matter if you made a choice about a food. What you want to do is yourself, you want to focus in on that. Now, if it's general in that, wow, with this whole thing going on in the world right now, my choices are all over the place, then focus in on that. But what tapping will do, because as I was telling you, we have the amygdala fire up in the back of the brain, okay? It's meant to perceive danger, okay? So what happens is when that amygdala fires up, blood leaves the brain. Okay. So let me just give you this real fast, this example. Somebody comes up and says something to you that's nasty and then walks away. And you're thinking, what just happened? And then after about 30 seconds when they're gone, we think of all kinds of great things we could have said to them. Right? That's because in the moment that happened, my body perceived danger, blood left the brain, really went to the arms and legs so I could run and get away from the lion, tiger, and bear. But the lion, tiger, and bear now is traffic, job, pandemics, you know, things like that. So once we get the amygdala calmed down, we'll get blood in the brain and you'll get more clarity about your choices. Like it might be, oh, I only do, I notice I'm doing that at night. I notice I do that when I'm bored, because what tapping really is meant to do, the blood goes back in the brain. You'll have emotional memory come up. I've worked with people who don't understand why they do sugar. And once we've tapped, their mom always soothed and quieted them with sugar. So, I mean, it's not
right. So let's do like a little demonstration then.
Okay, so you would go to that side of the hand part. It's the fatty part down from the little finger.
Okay.
And you tap with the other hand, and we're just going to keep it really simple. Okay? Even though I get and then you repeat after me, and you're just going to follow what I do. Okay? And I'm going to keep the language real simple. You know that when it's a one-on-one, that's not what I do. I get in there and I start poking and prodding and digging and all kinds of stuff.
Yes.
So, and this was a technique developed so that everyone could use it.
Okay.
All right. Even though I get so frustrated with my choices.
Even though I get frustrated with my choices.
I choose to love and accept myself.
I choose to love and accept myself.
And even though I get so frustrated with my choices.
And even though I get so frustrated with my choices.
I choose to love and forgive myself.
I choose to love and forgive myself.
And even though I get so frustrated with my choices.
And even though I get so frustrated with my choices.
Okay, so you would be thinking at this point about like when you're going to the fridge or the cupboard, or you're picking a cookie instead of a whatever, okay? You really want to focus in on that.
Okay.
And even though I get so frustrated with my choices.
Even though I get so frustrated with my choices.
I deeply and completely. Love and accept myself.
Love and accept myself.
Okay, now I always like to take a nice deep breath right after that, all the way into the belly.
Okay.
Okay. Starting on the eyebrow, and you can do the right side, the left side, both sides. Can't get it wrong, and you're not supposed to be hurting yourself, okay? So you're tapping gently about 7 or 8 times and just say, my frustration with my choices.
My frustration with my choices.
Going to the side of the eye, it's right where the temple of your glasses is.
Okay.
And you'd say, my frustration with my choices.
My frustration with my choices.
Under the eye, there's a bone right there. And you'd say, my frustration with my food choices.
My frustration with my food choices.
Okay. Under the nose, the frustration that I feel with my food choices.
The frustration that I feel with my food choices.
Going to the chin. Now the chin, it's that denty part. Right below the lip and above the chin. My frustration with my choices.
My frustration with my choices.
Collarbone. Now I like to do 2 hands right up there, like on either side of it. You could do open palm where the knot of a man's tie goes. You can do a little fist right in the same spot, any way that feels comfortable for you. My frustration with my food choices.
My frustration with my food choices.
Okay, under the arm, it's about 4 inches down from the armpit. For women, it's about the middle of the bra strap. Okay, and you would tap right, if you would draw a line right down the center of the side of your body, you're tapping right over there, and you say, my frustration with my food choices.
My frustration with my food choices.
Okay, and then the last spot we go to, as a general rule, there are other spots. We're going to go right up on the crown of the head, and you're just going to say, sometimes we tap in a little circle, and you say, my frustration with my food choices.
My frustration with my food choices.
Okay, taking a breath. Okay, should have had you rate on a 1 to 10 how frustrated you are with your choices so that you could give me your new 1 to 10.
Oh, I was at about, I don't know. Is the 1 to 10, the 10 better or the 1?
The 10 is as high as it goes as far as your frustration with yourself.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. I would say it's about a 7, started with a 7.
Now just say my frustration with my food choices and let me know what you think it came down to.
My frustration with my food choices is about a 5.
Okay. All right. My numbers for you are a little different. But that's okay, because what we normally find is even in another 30 seconds, you might go, people can't even finish their sentence and they go, well, it's a 4. And they go, wait, it's a 3. Wait a second. So I had you at about an 8. and you came down to a 3-4 is what I felt.
Yeah, because I mean, most of the time I'm pretty good. It's just then all of a sudden, oh, there I am, like cheating.
So do you know why you're sabotaging yourself? Oh, okay.
I don't know. It's I think a lot of it had to do when I was in high school and college. I dieted a lot, but when I did, I got sick.
Ah, okay.
It lowered my immune system, and
oh, so are you afraid with what's going on that if you
know
were...
it's always been that way. I mean, when I stopped being sick, and I gained some weight. So that might be subconsciously, and that's what I kind of uncovered later, is when I stopped starving myself, then I started to not get sick as much as I used to. Well, and so I think it was a survival mechanism for my body.
Plus, I think you know that the more you starve yourself, the slower your metabolism gets.
Yeah, I mean, I was in high school. I was going to modeling school. I was trying to be thin, all that stuff. And you know, you think you're thin enough, and they're like, no, you need to lose 10 more pounds, and you're like, I don't have 10 more pounds to lose.
Well, and I've got to tell you, I'm connecting to that. If we're in the midst of a worldwide pandemic, if you've got these connections to, when I stop doing that, I get sicker, or what, you know, that there's going to be stuff going on in there. The first thing I thought, though, was that whole thing of, I'm home, who cares?
No,
no,
because I've been working from home for a long time.
Okay. That could be for someone else. But it's so, when we're talking about this kind of an issue, it's so multifaceted. You know, everybody does this difference. You know, some people have the way for protection. Some people have the way, you know, because they're always in stress, which the cortisol is always running. So they're going to have the belly
cortisol. I've had my cortisol checked, and they're fine.
Excellent.
Because I mean, I've been happy, like, so I know how to, it's not a stress thing, and it's not eating from stress, it's just you know, I'm just being lazy, and going, I'm not, you know,
and remember, just
for a salad right now.
Well, and remember, just like the day that we worked together, okay, this is not about last week.
No,
I mean, we went all the way back to the crib with you.
Yes.
And because a lot of people can't believe that they have memory like that. And it could be a flash, and it's just enough to start to open that up. And remember that the tapping is really so that we don't have to re-traumatize ourselves. So even though, yes, you admit, and thank you for doing that you cried, that it moved really fast.
Yes, it did. It did. In that amount of time that we were going through a session. I mean, you intuitively said, I noticed that it was a language, a time when I couldn't pre-verbal. Right.
And then didn't we connect the creak in your knee with the creak of the crib?
They could have been, possibly. I don't know.
We did. There was that whole thing where you remembered the crib and all that. I mean, it's just amazing, because you gotta, well, you don't have to, but it would be helpful if you understand your isness knows every second of your life.
Yes.
And so one of the and there's a book that says it, but emotions buried alive never die. So those fears that happened that were pre-verbal and you couldn't express yourself, you know, those kinds of things, those are what are still in the body. So I have people all the time. I just had it happen again yesterday. So many people will say to me, I've already dealt with that. And I say, okay, well, let's just pretend. And I usually have you crying within a couple minutes. And it's
doesn't take long.
and it's because a lot of us intellectualize emotion. Oh, I can understand that and connect the dots, but that doesn't have to do. I say what the thinker thinks, the feeler feels. So the head's where we think, the body is where that manifests, so that I can even kind of follow a roadmap from the standpoint, if you tell me you have a shoulder problem, it means a different thing to me than if you have a liver issue or
Right.
your legs or your feet. I just follow different protocols depending on the part of the body. And that's
Right.
all part of the stuff that for me has just become so instinctual.
Yes. And I would say that, if you try this practice, and like you said, it took about 3 weeks when you first started to just kind of have a breakthrough. But if you are just like, I don't have the patience to wait 3 weeks every day, they may want to come to you and say, I need a breakthrough, because you can help like get into there a little bit more intuitively because you've developed that.
Yes, well, thank you.
Skill.
Yes. And just remember too, that when I did that first 3 weeks, it was only 8 minutes a day.
Yeah.
I wasn't doing a 1.5 or a 2-hour session. I can do
Mhm.
those with myself now.
Yeah.
And have done them for years. But that first 3 weeks was about sit down, do a video for 8 minutes, go meh, and get up.
Mm-hmm.
And it took that long at 8 minutes a day to bring up that emotion.
Right, right. So why don't you tell the listeners what your favorite quote is?
I do say all the time, tapping works if you know how to work it. It takes some
Absolutely.
digging, it
It
takes
takes a
some finesse.
practice, and it takes
Yes.
just uh y- it's
And
not going to
starting
hurt
with,
to do it, right? Just like meditation,
right. Now, if you would get
Let's
yourself in a
start.
pickle, okay? Because I do tell people, sometimes emotion comes up so fast, they're like, whoa, where'd that come from?
Mm-hmm.
You've got to keep tapping. I'm not
Okay.
just a mean, nasty cuss. When I say, if you're boohoo sobbing, you only get to do that with one hand. You have got to keep tapping.
Keep
Once
doing it.
you've brought up the fear, the sadness, the anger, the frustration, you've got to keep tapping. I had a lady one time stop, and she was like, I am not doing tapping. It was a couple years before I found out that she had brought up memory and felt really bad for several days and didn't know you got to keep tapping or call me or somebody
Just
you
to
resonate
flush the
with.
rest of it out.
Yeah, because otherwise she thought it just didn't work and it was painful
Mm-hmm.
and awful. And I went, oh no, that's not what you're supposed to be doing.
Right.
So there's no way every time I talk or do an interview or do my live, there's no way I'm going to teach everyone what all I've known.
Well, no, absolutely. But at least it's a way to get started. So if someone wanted to get started today, what's a little happy hack you could give them to just at least try it, maybe on a daily basis?
You can do something as simple as, I did this a few weeks ago on a live. Just tap each spot and take a nice breath in and breathe out. Then go to the next spot. A lot of people just like collarbone. If you find yourself feeling kind of stressed, just take one hand and tap that collarbone area. If that's too obtrusive because you think you look weird in the doctor's office, or there's a woman that I've worked with that has macular degeneration. I got to tell you this is amazing. Who when she goes and gets her shot, she taps. It helps her so much. Well, we've actually gotten a pinhole of light through one of her eyes.
Wow, that's
Through the eye with the macular degeneration. Amazing. So you can just tap the collarbone, and if that's too weird looking, just tap that karate chop area. You can just lay your hand in your lap and nobody even knows what you're doing.
And isn't it funny how when we are naturally stressed, we tend to touch these areas of our body anyway?
Yes.
I mean, like they touch the top of your head, you're like, oh no. Or you're thinking and you put your hand on your forehead, or you put your hands on your temples, like, oh my gosh. Or you're thinking and you put your hands on your mouth or above your
and in
lip.
surprise, you go to the collarbone.
Right. Yeah. You're grabbing these spots whenever you're upset anyway. So it's a natural reaction, but if you focus on it, you might get a deeper relief, clearing, right?
Yeah.
A deeper relief.
Yes. And I've had people even contact me, and in a 20 minutes they were ready. They had done a lot of work before they got to me. And in 20 minutes, there was, I'm not kidding you, 20 minutes, whole childhood PTSD. But she was ready. She'd done a lot of work prior to that.
Yeah.
Other modalities and things like that. I say there's nothing like tapping. I'm a tapping snob.
Oh, yeah.
It's just, there's been too many amazing manifestations. And like I said, the one with the client with the macular degeneration, where she covers her eye all the time to see if she can ever see.
Yeah.
And after we had this really big session and brought up a really big memory that was a life-changing memory for her, she all of a sudden on one of my lives goes, "Oh my God, I'm covering my eye and I can see you through a pinhole in my eye." And I'm like, "Oh, when do we work together again?"
And if anybody doesn't know what macular degeneration is, because my grandmother had it as well, is where you cannot see straight ahead your focus area. It's almost like it's burned out. And so you only see the peripheral.
And sometimes you lose all of that.
And sometimes you lose all of that.
Yes.
But so for her to have that pinhole, like it's just a breakthrough, she could see through that area of focus that had, end up being blurred. That's huge. That's really huge.
Yes.
So
yes.
Colette, could you tell the listeners where they can find you and what do you have to offer them for listening?
Okay, my biggest presence right now is on Facebook. You can go to Colette Liose page. That's Colette, and the last name is Liose, Liose.
We'll have the link for that down below.
Okay, good. And I go live daily. I am also on Facebook as TapNGrl, Tapping Into You. That's the tapping page. Now, I spell TapNGrl, TapNGrl.
Okay.
I do have a website, TapNGrl.com, TapNGrl. And if you go there, that's where you'll be sending me a note, letting me know that you heard me on Susan's podcast, Create Happy Now, and you'll get 20% off my usual hourly fee. Do you need to know what that is here?
Sure.
Okay, my usual hourly fee is $100 an hour.
Okay.
So it would mean that you're getting my service at $80 an hour at 20% off. But you got to let me know you found me here.
Yes, absolutely.
And so we can start getting things moving, because I've helped people with amazing money manifestations, work, relationships, addictions, weight loss.
Great. That's great. Absolutely. It's definitely worth it. So thank you so much for joining me, Colette. And I can't wait to meet you when I come up to Indiana next. We're definitely going to have to make it, hopefully around the holidays, if COVID will let up.
Yeah,
I can come up
6-foot coffee. Yeah, there you go.
Right.
Well, thank you so much for having me on. I absolutely love talking about tapping and getting it out to the world, in the hands of the world.
I appreciate it. So thank you so much. And we will definitely have you on the show again, I am sure.
Yeah.
All right. Take care, Colette.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Create Happy Now podcast with Colette Liose. This concludes our Launch Day series. If you'd like today's episode, please subscribe, rate, and review, and you can get a free meditation by yours truly by going to the link in the episode description as my thanks to you. Coming up next week, Jeffrey Hoppe will be on the podcast. Jeffrey is the CEO of Crimson Circle, former public information specialist at NASA. In addition to starting his own marketing company in Dallas, Texas at the age of 28, he also was co-founder of an aviation telecommunications company now known as GoGo and holds several patents, trademarks, and copyrights. Crimson Circle has grown into a multinational organization conducting numerous workshops and events each year as a connecting point for humans who are allowing their enlightenment in this lifetime. Catch Create Happy Now on YouTube with podcast recordings and additional videos. Look out for the Create Happy Now Facebook group, courses, books, and more. If you would like to stay on top of Create Happy Now creations, subscribe to the podcast and YouTube channel so that you can start your journey to create happy now.